As many of you are aware, the City of Baltimore has a franchise agreement in place with Comcast. This agreement is a non-exclusive franchise agreement that is set to expire December 31st, 2016. Per FCC guidelines and regulation, the franchise agreement covers cable television services only. To date, no other entity has requested a franchise for television services in the City of Baltimore. For several months, the City of Baltimore has been working with Comcast and its representatives to renegotiate a new 10-year franchise agreement that would go into effect January 1st, 2017. As we continue this process, the purpose of today's meeting is to provide citizens an opportunity to comment on the city's planned franchise renewal with Comcast. Citizens will have up to 3 minutes to make their comments. Comments will be recorded as part of this public forum and aired on Charm TV, the City of Baltimore's public access channel, and on Charm TV Citizens Hub on YouTube. This evening, I'm joined by Minda Goldberg, Chief Solicitor, Law Department for the City of Baltimore. We are hoping to be joined today by members of Comcast, which should include Ms. Stacy Burnett, Executive Director, Government Affairs for Comcast, and Mr. Antoine Banks, Senior Manager of Government Affairs for Comcast. We're now ready to open the floor to comments, and I just ask that as you prepare for your comment that you touch base with Joe. Can you raise your hand? Joe will cue you up so that we have an orderly discussion this evening, and thank you again. Is there anyone that would like to make a comment? Yes, sir, please. Could you step up to the podium?
Good evening. My name is Christopher D'Arcangelis. My question surrounds Comcast and their bundling of cabling and internet services. I realize that this hearing specifically is for cable, but I'm wondering if there's something that we can do in this process to engage them to provide better internet services and better high-speed services, higher speeds, better rates for the City of Baltimore as you talk about this process with them.
Certainly, thank you. So, as you said, the existing franchise agreement, this is mandated by the FCC, really only covers cable television services. I think we all understand over the course of the past decade that the cable television business has helped to launch a number of other services. But unfortunately, with respect to this franchise and what we can negotiate, we're limited to television services. That being said, we're certainly mindful of citizens' interests and want to have forums like these to understand what those interests are. And as soon as the Comcast people arrive, I'd welcome you to introduce that question again. They can maybe answer it more specifically. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your patience. Again, I'm Tania Lee, Executive Director for the Mayor's Office of Cable and Communications for the City of Baltimore. I'm joined with Minda Goldberg, our Chief Solicitor in the Legal Department. We now have our representatives from Comcast with us. I'd like to now introduce Ms. Stacy Barnett on the far right. She is Executive Director, Government Affairs for Comcast, and Mr. Antoine Banks, Senior Manager, Government Affairs for Comcast. And I now will allow Comcast to make their comments, and then we'll resume our public comments as well. Thank you.
Is this microphone on?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good evening. My name is Stacy Burnett. I'm the Senior Director of Government and Regulatory Affairs for Comcast Cable in the Beltway region, and I'm joined here with Antoine Banks, who's our Senior Manager of Government Affairs in the Beltway region. Comcast began providing services in the City of Baltimore in 2001. Comcast offers video, voice, and high-speed internet. And we welcome this opportunity to be here today to share Comcast's story here in the City of Baltimore. Comcast is committed to being the best in class when it comes to technology, infrastructure, and people. We've invested millions of dollars in the City of Baltimore, building and maintaining a world-class fiber-rich network. We are continually reinvesting in the network, which is driven by unprecedented innovation. We provide the ultimate in video, internet, voice, home management, and business services. Xfinity TV offers customers the best viewing experience anytime, anywhere, and with the most extensive collection of entertainment available on Xfinity On Demand, Xfinity TV apps, and the X1 platform. Comcast is fully committed to the goal of making customer service and the customer experience our best product. Comcast is taking the same focus we've had on product innovation and technology experiences and applying that to our customer service. This includes new cloud-based platforms to give our employees a better view of a customer's account and apps that put customers in the driver's seat to troubleshoot problems themselves. In the city, this includes third-party locations for additional payment options, the ability to return and exchange equipment at any UPS location, and the option of interacting with our customer service representatives by phone, live chat, or on social media. We offer a customer service guarantee, 2-hour appointment windows, and service options such as self-install kits. If anyone in attendance this evening has a specific customer service related question, we have a customer service representative here tonight who'll be happy to address your question individually. The Comcast culture values accessibility, integrity, inclusion, and diversity, both within the workplace and in how we relate to our customers. In 2015, Comcast was ranked the second largest telecommunications company by the Baltimore Business Journal and number 35 on the Baltimore Business Journal's top employers list. We were recognized as the Maryland Daily Record Innovator of the Year in 2015 for the X1 Talking Guide, Voice Remote, and other accessibility initiatives. At Comcast, acting responsibly drives what we do every day. In the city, we partner with local nonprofit organizations to maximize our impact in 3 core areas: digital literacy, community service, and youth leadership development. Comcast has contributed over $17 million in donations and in-kind contributions to Baltimore City nonprofits between 2001 and October of 2015. In addition, Comcast provides annually approximately $7.8 million to the city through its franchise fees and public educational and government access payments. Our Internet Essentials program is the largest community investment program of its kind that connects eligible families across the country to high-speed broadband for only $9.95 per month. Since the launch of Internet Essentials, over 500,000 households, or just about 2 million individuals, now have access to broadband internet service at home. We recently announced Maryland's first Internet Essentials Learning Zone in the city. Partnering with the City of Baltimore, the Family League of Baltimore, and additional organizations, Comcast is providing free Wi-Fi to 16 community centers and awarded $75,000 in digital literacy grants to these organizations. Comcast's investment in the City of Baltimore also includes our National Leaders and Achievers program, and that's a college scholarship program. Comcast has awarded over $104,000 in college scholarships to Baltimore City students since 2009 via this program. Every year, Comcast Corporation has an annual volunteer day known as Comcast Cares Day, on which Comcast employees, their friends and family, join with community members to volunteer to improve their local communities. In 2015, over 600 local volunteers came together to complete various beautification projects at Middle Branch Park and at the Maryland Center for Veterans Education and Training. We would like to acknowledge Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake, General Manager, Charm TV, Tania Lee, and all of the city employees that manage the city's cable-related operations. Under their leadership, the City of Baltimore has positioned itself as a municipal communications leader, and Comcast is proud to support the city's efforts in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. And now we will resume the public comments. Does anyone have a comment? Could you also please just state your name, district, or neighborhood?
Oh, certainly.
Thank you.
And for the sake of procedure, am I supposed to stand here while the question's being answered? Do I go back to my seat? Is there a kind of a
You are welcome
policy?
to stand there as the
Okay.
question's being
Or you
answered.
can sit down.
Sit down. It's up to you.
Very good. Thank you all for attending this evening. My name is Christopher DiArcangelo. I live in the Bolton Hill neighborhood, and I am a Comcast subscriber. Part of my question comes from, and it's kind of complicated because cable and internet are so intertied now. We're moving down the same wires at this particular point in time. And my question falls around, I'm a creative professional. I move a lot of data back and forth between myself and other coworkers. Many of my coworkers will not move into the city because of fear of the data caps that come from that Comcast keeps talking about. They've tried them out in various other cities. They have not done it here. One of the things I'd like to see is making sure that does not happen in the future, and if that can be part of the agreement, and also high-speed options when it comes to the internet. And something that ties a little closer to the video is to cable services. One of the things that concerns me is that when you talk about the data caps, that's internet. It's not cable, but it is because Comcast is a provider of content now. They own NBC, which has USA, CNBC, MSNBC, lots of channels. The problem with the data cap and where that ties in is that if I watch Netflix provides many things in 4K, which uses a lot of data. House of Cards, filmed in Baltimore, is streamed down the pipe in 4K. It encroaches on the data cap, and so that dissuades me or attempts to dissuade me from using other media services. And that seems like kind of a conflict of interest. So that's kind of laid it out into one place, my concerns. I realize that was a bit much, and I can back that down into single questions if that helps.
Can you back it to just a single question that
Certainly.
you'd like to comment on?
Is there anything going forward that will, in this franchise agreement, that can stop Comcast from enabling the data caps? Because I consider that to be kind of anti-competitive between my different media consumption methodologies.
It's kind of a difficult question, I think, to answer, given that the current franchise agreement only deals with television.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to lob it over to Comcast because I don't feel like I can answer that for you.
Okay.
We're in agreement with your response that this agreement only covers cable television services.
Okay. Is there a different agreement that does cover internet? Is that a different agreement that will come up later?
No.
Okay. And they just happen to incidentally move data through the same conduit, and that doesn't require the same type of agreement for anything.
No, that's correct.
That feels very. I'm concerned because that feels very side casey, and that for something as complicated as intertwined as cable and data has become over time, it feels like that's something that should kind of go together in one place, because it feels like that's where things are happening. And you can say whether it be cable companies like Comcast, where it has always been cable or TV coming through the wire, and now you send internet through the wire, or something like Verizon, which always sent kind of phone communications through the wire and now sends TV through the wire. We've kind of overlapped in the same place. And in thinking about these types of agreements, I think that's something that should be considered holistically, because they absolutely overlap.
Right. So I would doubt that there would be any disagreement in the overlapping of services and the offering of a bundle for many providers. That being said, from a legislative regulatory stance, the FCC does not require a franchise agreement as it does with the television services. So in terms of my office, we really do not have the capability to negotiate those terms or deal with those terms outside of television and what our mandate is to do. So I do think this is a conversation that is often brought up in these discussions, and I certainly would encourage you to also follow up with the FCC, because in terms of what we're able to do with our office and with the current franchise negotiation, it's really something that we don't deal with or can't deal with.
Okay.
Unfortunately. But I certainly really appreciate your comment.
No problem. I appreciate everyone for being here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other comments? And please state your name and your neighborhood.
Mark Parker from Highland Sound. I would point out that a number of Ms. Burnett's comments at the beginning were actually all about their investments in internet access and broadband access in the city. So it seems odd that then the conversation flowing from those very wonderful opening statements wouldn't also include that. But, just to point that out. Is there grounds for a conversation around internet service because, not under the terms of this franchise agreement through the FCC, but doesn't Comcast currently pay for not just for their television service, but also for their internet service to use city conduit? And if so, that relationship of Comcast information flowing through city conduit must be a subject of negotiation between the city and the company, and therefore that would be an opening for us to talk about, not tonight, but wouldn't that provide an opportunity for us as citizens to weigh in on negotiations between the city and Comcast around internet services?
Right. So we are currently in the midst of the negotiation, and obviously, if it is a concern to citizen, it certainly would be something that's brought up and addressed. But I do want to point out that per the franchise, there's not a lot that we can do in that internet broadband kind of data space. That doesn't mean that it does not make sense to have a holistic conversation, and we do expect to do that. And we certainly welcome citizens' comments. We also have our broadband czar here with us who is listening into these proceedings or this meeting, and I'm sure we'll continue those conversations going forward.
Is there a separate agreement outside of the franchise agreement that determines the rate that Comcast pays to send internet service, provide internet service using city conduit? Or is it part of this franchise agreement?
It is not a part of this franchise agreement.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Phil Spivak. I'm co-leading the Baltimore broadband campaign, but I'm speaking as an individual.
Okay.
And I'm only going to talk about the television franchise.
Okay.
So the franchise is very important, but it really comes down to Comcast provides cable TV services, and then they pay 60 cents per subscriber per month and 5% of gross revenues to the city. My question, I have two questions. Maybe I could ask the first one and then sit down and ask the second one. My first question is to the Comcast folks. What's a ballpark estimate of the number of cable customers in Baltimore that you provide service to? And what's a ballpark estimate of the gross revenues? And to the Mayor's Office of Communication, how do we know as a city that we're collecting the revenues that we're entitled to? I think my question's particularly pertinent because the last audit that's publicly available from 2009 showed that there were some serious deficiencies. Have we corrected the deficiencies? How do we audit the customer usage, the number of customers, the amount of revenues? I'll sit down and then I'll ask the second.
Okay. So actually, I'd like to deal with the television piece first. So during my tenure, and I joined the office in July 2013, we have had an audit. We have the capability to audit periodically, and so we certainly strive to do that. During that period, we were able to recoup some revenues. And Minda, do you recall?
It was over $500,000 worth of revenues. There were two audits. I'm not positive of the years, but I think they got us through 2014, where we went back and we audited to see about their customer base and were we receiving the fees that we were due. So it was an independent audit. It was not done by the city. It was done by a private company.
Right. And now I'll turn it over to Comcast for the other piece of the question.
I want to make sure I understand your question. It concerns the number of subscribers we have in the city of Baltimore? For cable services. And so ordinarily that's not something we share publicly for competitive concerns. There are other companies who are studying what we do in all of our service areas with the purpose of trying to determine do they want to come in and offer service as well. So unfortunately, that's not something we normally share. And I'm not at liberty to share that information tonight unless I want to get fired tomorrow. So I can't share that with you tonight.
I think that's unfortunate in this process of transparency. So to the city, I think that's great to hear that there are other audits. They're hard to see publicly on the websites. I think it'd be enormously useful if those were provided to the public, particularly if Comcast is not going to provide any statistics at this meeting. And the other part of it is, I think an audit is important, but ongoing data checking of statistics is very important. Mm-hmm. So I think the other line of questioning is, I thought the comments, again, provided by Ms. Burnett at the beginning were laudable goals of a company like Comcast. I think they're great goals. The question is Comcast providing that level of service? Our coalition's survey of customer satisfaction shows that satisfaction is dismal. Among 900 Comcast customers in our survey, 75% were dissatisfied with the cost, 58% in the performance, and 86% in the customer service. The city had their own survey done by CBG, and the satisfaction is higher, but it's interesting that 55% of the respondents said that their calls were not answered within 30 seconds, despite the fact that the franchise holds them to answering the phones within 30 seconds. And the FCC requirement is pertinent for that as well. So my question to Comcast is, do you believe that the satisfaction is that poor, or do you believe that it's better? Where do you see the ability to improve customer satisfaction? And then to the city, I think that our interest is that the city gets its fair share of revenues and that the customer gets good service, just like Ms. Burnett said. How do you assure that the customer service and other requirements in the franchise are tracked and met, and that appropriate remedies are made if they are not? And how, in the new contract, do you suggest that could be strengthened? Thank you very much.
Sure. Do you want to start with that, Stacy?
Sure. So to avoid a debate about the different surveys that I've done, I will make a blanket statement that we don't necessarily agree with all of the data collected in the city survey, just as they probably wouldn't agree with all of the data that was collected as part of our survey. But we are concerned about customer service, and we have invested a lot of money, multiple millions of dollars over the past 2 years to improve our customer service across this country. We don't profess to say that our customer service has been perfect, but we are making significant strides to improve our customer service so that our numbers can go up across this country. That's our goal.
So from the city's perspective, I greatly appreciate that comment on customer service. The franchise agreement is a public document. If you look at the various sections, customer service is clearly one that we're razor focused on. As it relates to the survey, the purpose of these surveys, and we really felt like it was a really strategic aspect of the negotiating, is to understand where customers are and what their perceptions are and how they feel about customer service going forward. So it is something that we are very focused on in the negotiations. We have been negotiating, I would say, for about a year. Feels like about a year now, maybe 9 months. As they evolve, we'll continue to focus on that. And so my office is very much committed to customer service. In the past 6 weeks, we've launched a new section for Comcast on the charmtv.tv website, which clearly explains the process to resolve any customer service issue that a customer or constituent feels that they have. The options are email, the options are there's a feedback contact form on the website, as well as via phone. We are personally committed to ensuring that any issue that is brought to the office is forwarded for resolution within 48 hours. Sure.
I think entirely in the goal of transparency. Mm-hmm. In my reading of the franchise, Comcast is expected to provide regular, I think they're called service interruption report logs, and report on subscriber complaints. anonymizing these so that people's identities are not disclosed, I think it'd be enormously helpful for the city to at least provide summary statistics, and if not, the actual full data with names removed. But I think, my real concern is that it's hard to find a Comcast customer who has not waited at home for a visit and nobody showed up. And it's hard to find somebody who's not experienced poor service. I've had to change the way I work at home, similar to the gentleman in the back, because the service was so poor. I had to go to the hospital and do the work I needed to do that I could have done from home. So I think the real question is, in the new franchise, what are the ways that we're going to better track these things, establish remedies that can hold the franchisee accountable? And I don't expect an answer tonight, but I think that's very pertinent to broadband, despite the fact I'm not talking about broadband.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Any other comments this evening?
Just kind of a last set of questions. I realize that Comcast is a large employer in the city. They kind of highlighted that, which I think was absolutely wonderful. Is there anything in addition other than just straight? Because I've read a little bit about kind of some of the franchise discussions that are happening in other cities. Some of them discuss labor. Some of them do discuss internet speed. Some of them discuss internet availability to poor residents. And I'm unsure from the conversation that we're having today are those issues that we can talk about in this franchise, or is our interpretation that those are not things that we can talk about in the frame of this discussion?
In the frame of, I think, the discussion and the negotiation, I think we all understand that negotiations are fluid.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is something that we will bring up for discussion, but I also want to ensure that citizens understand the parameters with which we are working from a legal and regulatory perspective. And so I do appreciate the comments, and we certainly look at this as a holistic negotiation going forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So are there any other comments this evening? Sure. We have been negotiating, I would say, for about a year. The existing agreement does not expire until December 31st, 2016. We will continue those negotiations. When we arrive at an agreement that all parties are comfortable with, it would be introduced to City Council. It would be voted upon. Prior to that, we would expect to have another hearing or type of meeting to give citizens an opportunity to comment on what is being put on the floor before it is hopefully approved. Well, thank you everyone for coming out tonight. I know it's a very rainy night and we appreciate your comments. Please feel free to contact my office if you ever have any questions or comments or concerns about this process or any other issues related to Comcast. Thank you again.